Yeah, man. I'm super excited to get to chat with you, man. How are you doing today? First off, Fred.
I'm doing good. I got so much going on. Every day there's something. And I'm working with a few clients, particularly difficult. One kid in particular. But everything's cool. I just do go one step at a time and do what I have to do.
I love it. So you coach people like in like fitness, or is it in business, or you said you have some clients. What are those clients in?
No, don't forget I'm a nutritionist, and a lot of people come to me that are looking to improve their health,
Right.
or the majority of people come to me to they have, they have physical and sometimes emotional, psychological problems because
Yeah.
this is a comprehensive program. A lot of times when you tell people how to eat, it's not enough. A lot of people have other issues. So this is a lifestyle we're talking about here. We're
Mm.
talking about enabling a person that has a problem, wherever that problem lies, by addressing it correctly and enable the body to actually to heal itself. The whole key is nutrition. Everything isn't about nutrition. Everything is about your body's a very sophisticated biological organism. When you have a problem, what you got to do is you got to figure out a way. Is that's what I do by leaving out all the things that could make you sick, put a burden on your internal organs, cause stress in your mind. No matter what it does, you got to release that fabulous God-given healing ability that's programmed into our body. And people don't today. They really don't want to face that. They
Mm.
don't realize that a major psychological component to hunger. People are driven towards the foods that are making them sick because they don't realize it's almost like an addiction. Once you start eating the wrong diet, it's very hard to break out of that unless you're motivated by fear or some kind of an accident or some kind of disaster.
Man.
I'm a nutritional consultant. I help people
I,
get better. I try anyway, Marcus.
yeah, you can only do so what you can do, right? Well, listen, so guys, we're here with Fred Bisci, and I'm so excited to get to share what you do, Fred, because like I said when we got on that call, I hadn't really realized that it was you, but you were one of the first people that exposed me to the thinking of, hey, listen, this plant-based stuff is not only like a possibility, but it's for real. People are doing it, and you had been doing it. You've been doing it since a time that, I mean, people must have called you crazy when you told people that you were
They did.
raw, that you
They
were
did.
eating raw for you've been so you're 90 years old. You've been eating raw for 50 something years.
Yes, sir.
Come on, man. Tell us about that. How did that start? Like, how did you even start to think that, hey, I'm gonna be so progressive, you know what I'm saying? In a time when people thought you were insane, I'm going to explore raw food, you know what I'm saying, living. Cause it just blows my mind.
Marcus, to be honest with you, I'm a dyslexic, and growing up in the 30s, at the end of the Depression was a long time ago. Things were completely different today than they are today. Totally different. Everything was different. The whole climate was different in every single way. When it came to nutrition, dietitians and so-called,
Right.
scientists were telling people you could absolutely not eat a vegan or a vegetarian diet. There was a guy that was in charge of the pathology department at Harvard. I mean, I got his book right here. It's a 1,200-page book on pathology and science. Said you could not become a vegetarian or a vegan. I didn't believe that at all. And I had a discussion once with a professor in the class. I actually got thrown out. She asked me to leave because she said that you could not go more than 12 days without eating, fasting. Now, I knew that was ridiculous. I had already fasted over 30 days on water. So I knew that wasn't true and thrived on it. I fasted 10 days and ran 10 miles. Dick Gregory fasted 57 days and walked and ran 100 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people didn't realize that. There was Dr. Carl Otto Ali supervised a 10-day fast in Stockholm, Sweden, where 11 men fasted on water. Now, this is extreme. I know that. And I'll tell you why I started to look at that. They fasted 11 days on water, and they walked 330 miles. They slept at night, but they walked. Numerous people have done that, but you just can't, drop out of mainstream society eating the standard American diet and think you're going to go on a 20-day fast and, be able to do something, because you'll just fall flat on your face. And that's why there's so much confusion. The overwhelming amount of information in social media is so confusing. People don't know whether to follow a ketogenic diet, a raw food diet, a vegetarian diet, a high protein diet, pineapple diet. They're so confused. They really don't know what to do. So how I got into this many years ago, I was an athlete. When I was 16, I weighed over 200 pounds.
Now, Fred,
Yes.
I'm gonna need you to not be modest and share, because this is the side that, again, like, I heard this about you, and this is what immediately like opened up my eyes. So people are gonna see you, and they're gonna see that you're 90. You and I talked about this. People have a conception. They don't realize how there you are compared to somebody your age, and they don't know the things that you're doing performance wise. Please tell us a little bit about that background, or excuse me, some of the things that you're doing right now or recently have done, and then dig into that athletic background, because I think this is where people are going to be blown away at the wealth of knowledge that you have.
Well, I've always been very careful. It's not really about me. I'll do what you're telling me to do, though, because there's so many people out there trying to, I'm not the type of guy that likes to talk about myself, boast,
I know. But Fred, you're not, but I know. And I just feel like you're the example, Fred. You know what I'm saying? You're what everyone is saying.
Well,
and even then people said that you couldn't, right? And you were and that's something that I've learned from you. I have a hypothesis, I run an experiment, and then I analyze the data. And you were proving that, hey, you guys are saying these things, and this makes me so upset. You guys are saying these things, but you haven't run the experiment. But I'm a living, walking, talking example of it,
Well, I did it backwards. See, they come up with a hypothesis, they come up with a theory, then they try to find somebody to do it. I actually trusted the Europeans that I used as my mentors. Otto Buchinger, Ragnar Berg, who won the Nobel Peace Prize. I was really impressed when I first read about those people and saw what they recommended. And I aimed at being able to do what they recommended, and I did. Everything they said was true, including dry fasting. I had an experience where I had to do a 7-day dry fast. I don't recommend people try this stuff right off the bat unless they know what they were doing. But when I was back and I was 16 years old and I was over 200 pounds, my main focus was on to push myself to the maximum, to take the human condition and see how far I could take it. The reason I thought that way is because I was a dyslexic when I was a kid and had a speech impediment. I had poor self-esteem. So I was constantly trying to prove to myself that I was adequate, that I could measure up to just being average. But I went way beyond that because I was driven to take the human condition, use it myself, to push it as far as I possibly could. I did that, and I fasted over 40 days on water, which a lot of people thought was crazy in those days. And I fasted 44 days, 40 days, then, to be honest, I don't remember, 5 or 6 days, 5 or 6 times over 30 days. So I know a little bit about fasting. I fasted a lot of people, but a lot of people not ready for that. Then I started to realize there was a few impressive people that were vegans that were extremely strong, and everybody was putting down. And people didn't realize how strong these guys really were. And a lot of them weren't always just thin people. You can have plenty of muscle and be a vegan. Plus, there's a direct correlation to your tissue quality and the food that you're eating. There's a lot of guys that can bench press 500 pounds and they're eating animal protein 4 or 5 times a day. And I'm not against people doing what they want to do. I'm not putting anybody down whatsoever. But the thing is, they don't last a long time. I don't know that because I watched everybody. Louis St. Cyr, I don't know if you knew these people are. 356 pounds, died when he was 52 years old. He was the strongest man in the world. I could rattle off Arthur Saxon, who ate 20 eggs for breakfast and 4 pounds of bacon. Strongest man in the world at that time. He ate 10 pounds of beef. It took him 4 hours to eat it at night. Died from kidney failure. because of all that, I guess from all that, I would say from all that protein. He died when he was in his early 40s. Numerous guys. Paul Anderson. You ever heard of Paul Anderson?
Yeah. I've heard of Saxon.
Arthur Saxon, the Saxon
Yeah.
trio.
Yeah, right. And then Sincere, the name sounds familiar, but no, some of these people, I think I've just heard you reference before, but I didn't know
Well,
too
they were
much
long
about.
before your time. But see, I saw all these guys.
Yeah.
And there were guys that were really, really unbelievable athletes for that day, like George Hackenschmidt, the Russian Lion. He was a Russian guy. He changed. When he got into his 70s, he realized, a very intelligent guy, he realized that he had to adjust his diet because they were starting to have all kinds of arthritic pain, joint pains, all kinds of problems. So they realized they had to adjust their diet. Now, there's a lot of confusion about a plant-based diet. A lot of people today still think that you're not going to get enough protein. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, preposterous.
Yes.
I lived on so little protein, and that people don't realize the more protein you eat, everybody's telling you speed up your metabolism, right?
Right.
To burn body fat. You want to have a six-pack, you want to look ripped, you want to speed up your metabolism.
Now, and the reason that they're saying that about protein is they're saying that the protein is going to do more for the thermogenics, right? That's their reasoning for it, just for people that don't know. So go ahead, please dive into this.
Well, when you're doing that, though, you're accelerating the aging. Remember that when you're doing that, you're speeding up your metabolism to burn body fat. Even if you're on a ketogenic diet, you're accelerating your aging.
And when you say aging, you're talking about cells.
You're going to pay for it at the end of the road. You're going to pay for it when you get into your 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Now this is also why. And now this is and don't let me take you off the topic, but I just love interjecting these little things.
Yeah, go ahead.
I always say, why do you think that when you're older, doctors start telling you, take out the red meat, take out the dairy, eat more fruits and vegetables? Why do you think that when you're a baby, what do babies consume? You know, a lot of bodybuilders, I used to do it myself. I used to buy cases of baby food. Why? Because it's the fastest way for me to get in nutrients. And if it's good enough for a baby to grow at this rapid rate, it's probably good enough for me. But again, what those babies aren't having chicken and beef stew. They're having potatoes and they're having apples and they're having carrots and peas. You know what I mean? So I just remember one day it just hit me. I was like, how come when you're old, they tell you to eat like a baby, and when you're a baby, they tell you to eat this so you can grow? And I was like,
well, I think, to be honest with you, and to be a little facetious, I think as a lot of people think, as you get old, you're starting to regress.
That's part of it. No, that's definitely part of it. That's definitely part of it.
An infant's stomach digestive process is not fully developed to around 4 years old. Mm-hmm. When you're giving a little baby, you're supposed to be able. It's like priming a carburetor in a reciprocal, an automobile's engine. You have to prime the carburetor. It's with a baby. You start out by feeding the water plump food, fruits and vegetables. Start out with fruit, because the baby's stomach, if you put a concentrated food into a baby like my grandson who's 6 months old, I mean, you'll make the kid really sick because he doesn't have the stomach environment, the digestive enzymes to break that food down. But the easiest food to absorb is fruit. And everybody's telling people not to eat fruit.
Don't eat fruit because fruit's dangerous because of the sugar and all this shit.
It's baloney. We are designed to eat a plant-based diet, man. We are not lions or tigers. We have adjusted over thousands of years to be able to eat some animal protein. But we are not carnivores. People just can't seem to get that through their head. Of course, when a young guy like you, a young lion like you, before you got aware of this, when you was like 21, 22 years old, you eating a lot of animal protein, your libido's through the roof, you feel strong, you're ready to go. But people don't realize what that means. That's not really the protein. That's really the nitrogenous byproducts, the waste products in the flesh of that animal trying to get out of your system besides your own nitrogenous byproducts. When you eat plant foods, in the beginning, there's a direct correlation to your tissue and your diet. So when somebody's been eating a lot of animal protein and if you go into a raw food diet and you're eating a lot of animal protein, if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to think you're going to die. People don't realize detoxes.
I tell people all the time, people are like, hey, I'm thinking about going vegan. I'm like, first off, do not stop. Hey, first off, let's clean up your diet. Let's remove the things that you don't need, and let's take some progressive steps. There was a girl. There was this girl. She was beautiful, amazing trainer. Experimented with all different types of things. She was really into her craft. She says, hey, listen, yeah, my birthday's next week. I'm going to go vegan. I was like, man, that's a bad idea. Like, you're so regimented. Your body is so used to eating a certain way that if you do that, the first response before things get better is they're going to get a lot worse, because your body doesn't listen. The human organism is smarter than you. That's why it survived. 100%. And it's going to do whatever it can to hold on to what's normal until it goes through that keto flu or that vegan flu, the paleo, whatever. It's your body trying to fight what you're giving it change. And I've told people this so often, but they don't understand that. And that's why people will come back and say, oh man, I got sick. Yeah, you got sick because you literally, it's like you coming off of heroin or cocaine. No disrespect to people who have actually dealt with that. We're just using that sense of it. So go ahead and go right back. You're talking about people making that change and what's happening inside of their body.
The keto flu is only a 2-week period where your body is trying to adjust to burning body fat. The ketogenic diet, there's people that do okay on that diet, but a lot of people think it's a backup plan. Either when you're a hunter-gatherer or you're on a long fast. When I was on a 40-day fast, I was producing ketones because I was burning body fat. And the reason why these guys were able to do those heroic endurance events, because they were experienced fasters. It only took them a few minutes to switch to burning body fat, because they were on a fast. Their stomach was empty. The body had to go directly to body fat. There wasn't a lot of endogenous toxins they had to eliminate first. So there's a lot of confusing information. And the sad thing about it, everybody's an expert. There's a lot of things on the internet you see, and people are experts. But the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
I'm not a dogmatic guy. I don't pretend to be the type of person who's going to tell everybody what to do. But one thing is for sure that they had wrong. That you definitely can be a super healthy vegan. That's for sure. And a lot of people are switching to being vegans because they're sick in what they're doing.
Because they're sick, and yes.
For athletes, man. Yeah. Some of them are great athletes, very impressive looking guys. A lot
Olympians.
of times people look at somebody, they look at a guy, wow, look at that guy. 6'2", weighs 240, he's rock hard. They don't realize he might be on the verge. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So there are a couple things I want to dig into. I want to go back to the protein talk and talking about adequate amounts of protein, because you were touching on that. But before that, I want to touch on that topic. So Kendrick Farris, by the way, like, as amazing as the United States of America is, for those of you guys listening, we absolutely get our asses kicked in weightlifting. We are not very good at all. When you compare us to the rest of the world, we are toward the bottom of the barrel. Kendrick Farris is our only Olympian that made it to lift, at least for the men that year, in the Summer Olympics for weightlifting. Kendrick Farris was plant-based. I spoke to him. He's not like I don't want to say he's like a friend of mine. We've had multiple conversations over the years. Like, we'll just chat it up. And Kendrick said, man, I started hitting all-time PRs, lifetime PRs. When I did this, my joints felt better. And this is a guy, I have to say that it's so interesting to hear it from people like that, Fred, because they know their bodies. Like, when you train every day since you were 8, 9, 10 years old to dominate a sport, you know when your body's primed and ready to go. I would get in layup lines sometimes when I was playing pro, and I would know, hey, today ain't the day, because I know my body. I know when something's off. Kendrick Farris said he felt amazing. His training volume went up. It was easier for him to get the calories in. And everybody tried to say, well, Kendrick Farris was already strong. And I experienced the exact same thing. I initially lost 15 pounds after 15 months of not being able to train. About 6 weeks of priming, I hit lifetime PRs in snatch, clean and jerk, squat, you name it. And my body felt better. So when we're talking about like the possibilities of these people, especially when you're talking about the athletes, these are like world class. And so it's just very interesting to hear the dynamic that people say about thinking you're going to get weak and all that stuff. And I'll kind of there transition us into, you were speaking about the protein intake before. And my last point was, when I got my strongest, I was ingesting like 100 grams of protein or less.
Right.
at 6'8", 240, 250 pounds. And I couldn't, bro, Fred, I couldn't believe it. I was like,
Now,
this can't.
you don't have to convince me. I know that. Man, you don't have to convince me. You got to remember, though, here's the real problem. You got people out there now. Everybody has an agenda one way or the other. Sometimes people, like you're on a mission. You want to help people. You want to get out there. You want to get the word out there. That's been my agenda.
Right.
Everybody, it's not always about money. Everybody likes to make a few bucks, but it's not always about money. But you have people that are looking at what you're doing. They've never experienced it. They've never tried it. So they have no idea how it works. You don't know what you don't know. How can you explain an experience that you never had? How can you do that? What I say to people, have the experience. Have the guts and the fortitude to do what I did. I mean, I know that was a little crazy. I lost 75 pounds because I went right to a raw diet. And in the beginning, I felt like, oh my God, I said, this is amazing. But I knew what happened. I got a clarity of mind I never had before as a kid. I came from a very, immigrant, very poor family. And so I had a clarity of mind. I saw things. Your mind starts just eating a vegan diet, what it does for your consciousness. People don't realize what it does for your consciousness. People say, oh, Freddie, how do you feel like you're 90 years old? I feel good. How's your mind working? It's working good.
Yeah, I was telling some people, Fred, when I was speaking to the team, I was like, yo, this guy, Fred, is texting me with like emojis. He's like hitting me back fast. He doesn't have any typos. He's not saying how like he struggles to text. I was like, people. Yeah, like you said to me, you were like, yeah, sometimes people think they can pull it over on you because they think you're 90 and you're not there. But I was like, yo, this motherfucker is there. He's 100% like, I would say that mentally and physically, you know what I'm saying? And I know that, you have to have surgery. I mean, it's wear and tear on your body you've had for a long time. I was like, this guy's there than like in better shape mentally and physically than most people in their 20s and 30s. I would put my life on it,
Well, listen, at this point, Marcus, in my life, my main mission is to encourage people and to make people, of all walks of life, everybody, I don't care who they are, to realize they can have a better quality of life. Look what's happening to sometimes I go into stores and I see people, I look and see what they're eating, I see what they're doing. I realize a lot of it is an economic thing. I go into a store down here. There's a lot of poor people going in there. I see that what they're buying, all the worst stuff because they don't have the money. There's a lot of things got to be changed in this country. But people got to become aware that whatever they put in their mouth has a tremendous impact on how you're going to feel, how strong you're going to be, how much endurance you're going to have, and how much sickness you're going to have. When you I was not sick. Didn't even have a sniffle till I was exposed to mold. I had, heavily exposed to mold. It was a serious issue. But the information out there, we have been indoctrinated into a system. It's not the best thing for us. There's a lot of money involved here. People have to become aware. Number one, you don't need all that protein. Number two, just like Ragnar Berg says, just because animal protein has all the amino acids, we do not need all the amino acids in one meal.
Go ahead, Fred. Dig into the aminos because please, this is again, like I love you saying these things coming from your background with the education you have, because that's the other thing that people don't get. They're so used to knowing, hey, listen, when I have this egg, when I have this steak, when I have this chicken or fish, I'm getting all those 9 essential amino acids that make a complete protein, and they don't know about that I can take these.
Science. You know why
I can get them from other foods.
Marcus, you know why they think that way? Because a lot of these people that are really eating a lot of protein, if they don't have a high protein breakfast, they get lightheaded, they get dizzy. So they need that complete protein. Why? They're being told by so-called experts that your blood sugars, you want to keep your blood sugar up. That's not the case at all. They're starting to detox almost immediately. Their body's trying to release endogenous material. It's like the kid had his hand in the dike in Holland. They got to keep their hand in the dike. That's why I stopped fasting people at home. A lot of these people eating high protein meals, I put them on a fast, they thought they were going to die. It was very scary. And once you Once you're a clean person, you can go without food for days and still feel strong. But I don't recommend people do that because you get thin. There's a lot of things happen. Unless, see, that's what happened to me. I was a pretty strong guy. I used to train. When I used to train, I developed an overload system. I think you heard me say, I used to train for 6 hours to exhaustion, but then I would rest 5 or 6 days. Come back strong as a bear, strong as a lion. And then when I switched to a vegan raw diet, before I had my car accident, injured my shoulder, I wasn't a big guy. I was strong. You couldn't believe how strong I was. And even today, I got gray hair. I'm slender. People say, oh, can I help you, Freddie? I don't need help. I mean, I appreciate that. You know what I mean? You stay strong. The key is you could stay strong. Young guys like you and your friends, David and all those guys, they shouldn't be losing any strength. If they're losing strength, that means they're doing something wrong. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I haven't. For me, the biggest thing was exactly what you're saying. I had increased energy, and I had set a goal when I came back from my blood clots that I wanted to be able to I wanted to build up to be able to walk into the gym, hit 135, 225, 315, 405 at any time that I wanted to. And I had never done that before I got injured, the year and a half before and had the blood clots. And I got to where I could literally any day during the week even at the end of a workout. And for me, look, guys, those of you guys that see me, squatting is not a normal thing for me. I'm 6'8", like my femurs are just incredibly long. Like it's, what I'm saying? I was made to jump and sprint. I wasn't made for squatting.
Well, you're made to pull. You're made to jump and sprint or pull.
Exactly.
You're not.
It's funny you say that because pulling is like, that's.
I know.
So
it's leverage. It's all about leverage.
It's all leverage.
So if you're gonna do heavy squats, with the way you're built, you're gonna have to be leaning way forward. It's almost like doing a deadlift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The weight is on the back of your neck. So
exactly.
Listen, you're 100% right. 100% right. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But remember, people are watching you. You make a mistake, you do everything right, so they're watching you. So what you got to do is lead by example. How old are you now? 35. Well, how old are you?
I'm 35. I turned 36 in November. So coming back from this injury, it'll be a cool thing because I'm going to chronicle this whole thing and show people doing it plant-based. I start workouts today, upper body.
You'll come back much quicker. If the doctor tells you it's going to take you 2 months, you forget it. You'll be back in a month. But don't stress it. Give it a chance to heal. But you're going to heal much quicker because your body's not going to have to deal with all the negative things the average person expends about maybe between 50 and 70% of their energy to metabolize their food. They don't realize where all their energy is going. But if you eat a plant-based diet and you do it intelligently, a lot of people today, they are switching to vegan diets, but they don't have the money, so they're eating too much processed food. They're not going to get the results that we're talking about. But when you eat the right food, you're going to come back so fast, and you're going to come back even stronger, because you're eating based on the biological design of the human body. What you have to remember, every species of animal on Earth has a species-specific diet. It's very obvious. You look at a giraffe. Well, I go through this all the time. A lion, a tiger. Very obvious that you look at their anatomical design, their claws on both their extremities, their teeth, their digestive system. It's a straight line. There's no rings in there, so the protein can pass through very quickly. Why? So it don't rot in your system. But when you're eating a lot of protein, the protein is stimulated. It's like it's almost like, because of the nitrogenous byproducts, like being on a drug. You're going to be stimulated. And people don't know the difference between stimulation and energies that are produced by the Krebs cycle. Stimulation, you got to pay for. It's like borrowing money from a loan shark. He's going to want his vig. He wants his money. It's the same thing when you stimulate yourself. You got to pay back. If you're stimulating yourself and you can't make up for a night's sleep, then you're going to have trouble. You're stressing out your adrenal. I've done that. I had to do it. I knew I was doing it.
Yeah.
And when the cortisol level goes up, that means you're going to be tapping into your adrenal glands. This is what we got to realize here. The body is always trying to protect you. It'll always go to heroic measures to protect us from our ignorance.
It's smart. So you touched on a couple amazing things. And those you guys out there that are knuckleheads and you think that you can just go nonstop and, like The Rock's talking about he slept for 2 hours and then went on a set. His body's much more different. He's doing some things to aid his body. We're not going to talk about those things. But you have to understand that, like, sleep.
Keep your eyes on him, because I don't know who you mean, but keep your eyes on him. Probably a great guy. But if you're doing that, listen, sleep. And to be a healthy person, live a long time, sleep is very, very important. Yes. When you're sleeping, if you're eating a high protein diet, you're not going to get by on 3-4 hours sleep like a guy on a raw food diet does. Mm-hmm. You need more sleep because your body has a lot more work to do. When you're sleeping at night, visualize yourself as being on a self-dialysis process. Your body is, undoing what we did, the waste products from what we ate, the stress that we had to deal with. Your body's, by rest, you're going into REM sleep, your body's going through this process. The deeper you sleep, the better chance you have of going through this process. But if you're getting 2 hours sleep and you're maintaining, 22-inch arms and you're doing it with, protein powders and forget about growth hormones and all those type of things, you're stimulating yourself. Mm-hmm. You're pumping your body up the wrong way. Mm-hmm. Sooner or later, we're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, what they're doing, taking extra testosterone, they're they're getting into HGH and all those type of things. And, sometimes elderly people like me, they're having real trouble. Their testosterone's real low. They go to a anti-aging doctor if that's what they want to do. I don't do that. I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen with me. Mm-hmm. I'll deal with fasting. You want to elevate your testosterone? People don't believe it. Go on a fast, man.
No, yeah. Yeah, there are actually a lot of really cool studies that show this. Fred, I want to ask you about first, when you started in using that raw diet, tell us about like what type of foods you were eating, right? This is when you first made that change. What type of foods were you eating? And talk a little bit about what your training and some of your numbers were, because I want to put some perspective on this. Most people are like, well, I don't know where to start. So where would you suggest people start with a raw diet? How did you start? And then tell us a little bit about your training.
Okay. Well, I just did a cold turkey, because remember what I told you before, like I was a driven type of guy. I couldn't wait for the answer. So I just went on a raw food diet, and my diet consists of, fruits, vegetables, nut seeds, avocados, juices, and smoothies. But in the beginning, I didn't realize I wasn't getting enough calories. So when you don't
and that's more important than anything, right? People think it's the protein, but it's the calories.
Let me tell you what happened. I mean, I felt amazing. I felt really, really strong. So after I had the car accident, I wanted to train. I ran 2 50-mile races and 18 marathons. But when I wasn't eating a lot of fruit and getting enough calories, I was drinking green juices, eating salads. There's not too many calories there. I was very thin. But in training, I could run I could fly. But then when it came to running races, I ran out of gas. Then I said, what's wrong here? And there was people saying, no, and I wasn't eating no starches. You either got to eat fruit or starches to get the energy and the calories. So I wasn't eating cooked starches. It was 100% raw. And I wasn't eating enough fruit. So, and of course, I was drinking some carrot juice I'm drinking carrot, celery, and apple. Now everybody's afraid to drink carrot juice because it's the sugar, it's going to give you cancer. It's all baloney. Nonsense, in my estimation. So what I did, and I was really saying, what's wrong here? I feel so good. Why do I run out of gas? And I was training about someplace between 50 and 70 miles a week. And I used to run out of gas. There was a guy that was trying to prove I was wrong. He was a good runner. He used to call me to go for a run. I used to go for a run with him. And I kept up, but I couldn't really do it. I know I was capable of doing better. Then all of a sudden, I started eating more fruit. Within a week, I was blasting through 20-mile runs. Blasting. All I had to do was get enough calories. That's why a lot of people, that are eating processed food, they're getting a lot of calories. So you could be a good athlete when you're young on processed food because you're getting enough calories. You're getting the energy. But in the long run, you're stressing your body. It's not good for the long run. So when I saw that happen, I used to run everywhere. I was a captain on a boat, and I used to run into the city, ride home, ride a bike, work out with weights there. I used to do. People were shocked to see a guy like me do repetition squats with 300, 350 pounds at a light body weight. And
What were you deadlifting at that time, Freddie?
My best deadlift was 620 pounds, but I never tried that much weight.
Yeah, yes, no need to. What was your body weight at that time?
I knew how strong I was more concerned about. I mean, I could have deadlifted without, I don't want to. I could have deadlifted a lot of weight though. But don't forget, I didn't have a massive physique. I wasn't no 250-pound guy. My best lift was 350 clean and jerk, 280 press, 275 snatch. That was all in competition.
Hold on. So how much did you weigh at this time, Freddie?
Well, on the raw diet?
Yeah.
145, 150 pounds.
And say those numbers one more time, please.
350-pound clean and jerk, 280 press, 275 snatch. Plus, I'm built like you. I mean, I'm not tall like you, but I got long legs. So squatting, I could squat over 400. But
right, you have a good, yeah.
But I was built for pulling. That's why I could deadlift so much. Plus, I developed a technique. I dug a hole. We trained, everything was primitive. I dug a hole. We trained in a garage, was like a barn. So I dug a hole, and you heard me say that. We dug a hole. I stood in that hole. We had a rack. I just grabbed the bar, just stand up with it like this. Just
now this is it's funny because now, Freddie, now people are like those techniques are seen as like, static holds and like partial reps. I was talking to Rory about this, about how I would just do, front squats, like literally like two. Now the Chinese and the Russians have been doing this for a long time. Or, just overloading a bar with, 15 to 20% above your max, back squat or front squat and just holding it, stuff like that. Very.
They're doing it. I say I'm not keeping up. The Bulgarians, the Russians,
right.
They all started to do this. In the beginning, listen, there was a time when this country, we in the Olympics and the World Weightlifting Championships, we were wiping up the floor.
Right.
But then they got wise. And they started making a science out of this. And everybody was following what we were doing. Then they changed. And that's why they're developing, they got athletes now. And when I was, a lot of the guys from the York Barbell Club, they didn't play basketball. The Russians started shooting baskets, jumping. You're developing a different effect on your quick twitch muscles. They started sprinting, not long distance running. Long distance running, I don't recommend anybody do long distance running anymore. I did it. I did all that stuff. I don't think it's really conducive to being a healthy person. I think it causes oxidative stress and free radical damage. You're better off doing sprints. Do a sprint 100 yards, then walk back. Sprint the 100 yards, like 70, 80%. You develop better muscle, more quick twitch muscle. It's better for your lungs, better for your heart, less oxidative stress. You're not burning yourself up. With oxidative stress, we're burning ourselves up.
It's anaerobic. It's you're doing sprints, but it's anaerobic, and so you develop that power and that strength.
The weight's correct. If you do if you work out with the weights, it becomes anaerobic. See, a lot of what I started to do just to see what would happen, I would train continually, but I used to go from one end of my body to the other. I do an upper body exercise, then I do a lower body exercise. So you're forcing your blood to circulate like you were doing anaerobic exercise. You don't get as massive. You don't get that pump. Everybody's looking for the pump. They don't realize that pump is not a good thing. You're maintaining lactic acid and waste products in your muscle. So your arm looks like it's an inch and a half bigger. It's more ego than intelligence. You want to listen, life goes very, very fast, Marcus. I mean, you're only a young fellow right now. But you got the knowledge now. If you don't make it to 90 or 100, it's your own fault. I got to tell you the truth.
I love it.
Oh my God.
I love it, man. It's really cool to just hear you say these things that, again, and you've lived it, and you've been able to see all of the advances and the things that have happened. And I just think it's so powerful for people to hear it coming from you, you know? So if somebody wanted to start approaching a raw diet, Freddie, like how do you suggest that? Like, what are some tips that you want to give them? Because you talked about the foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, smoothies, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. And the biggest thing is, hey, listen, if you're low energy, you got to take in more calories, right? But people immediately are going to assume that, you know, if I have these fruits and things, of course, the sugar and all that stuff's bad for you. And I do know a lot of people that will do it and they're not getting enough exercise, right? So they're just taking in calories and they haven't explored that. So I'm going to say, just to add on, you guys need to first know like what your maintenance calories are. And then you need to, you know, if you want to lose fat, you need to be, you know, in a caloric deficit. So 2 to 5, you know, 2, 3, 400 calories below that. And if you want to gain muscle, then you need to be 2, 3, 400 calories above that. With that in mind, Freddie, somebody wants to, you know, what are some tips you would give somebody to say, listen, you want to approach a raw diet, here are some things to take in mind?
Okay, what's very, very important, remember, the raw diet is very extreme, but it's the best way for us to go for people that can do it. But when you go to a raw diet, especially if you're coming from a standard American diet, or even if you're coming from a vegan diet, there's a lot of cooked food, especially if you come from a standard American diet, you go all raw. The best thing to do, you realize you're going to go through a very heavy detox. In the beginning, when you're going through that detox, the best thing to do is to rest. Provide as much energy as your body can to carry out this process. Once you're through the process and you start to feel good, then you got to start exercise. You got to make sure you're getting enough rest, enough sleep. If you want, you switch it to a raw diet and you feel tired, don't push yourself. Lay down and close your eyes. Or go on a supervised fast. Find somebody who knows what they're doing. And because what you can accomplish on a supervised fast or a juice cleanse, forget about it. It's like 2 months of good eating. If you go on a fast, a supervised fast by somebody who knows what they're doing, it can save and change your life. You know, have you heard of that guy, Dr. Nun Amin Ra, the guy that's a raw food, the guy that's eats one meal a day for 16 years? He's got the world's record. Okay, a lot of people think he's a fake. He's not. I've done that. I know he knows exactly what he's doing. He's not eating a raw diet. He's eating a vegan diet. He eats one meal a day. He fasts 24 hours a day. He deadlifts over 600 pounds. He weighs about 190 pounds. That guy, I don't know him, but based on what I know, he's on a level. People accuse him of, you know, taking steroids and doing, and he's got a fabulously muscular physique.
What's his name again, Frank?
What?
What's his name, Freddie? I mean,
what's his name?
Yeah, his name. Did you say Frank was his name?
No, Dr. Nun Amin Ra. Nunamen Ra. R-A. I don't know him, but I've done similar things, so that's very possible.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. So go ahead, please.
Is, you know, everybody's a unique individual. We're all different. And in our chemistry, we're all coming from different places. I know people are coming out of drugs. You know, they got to go through a detox. They got to go through this process. A lot of people do that. You know, guy who's on drugs, coming out of jail or something like that, he needs somebody to help him, to guide him through that process. Mm-hmm. Once you get through this process and get to where you are or get to even beyond that, then nobody's going to fool you no more. There's not going to be nothing to convince you there's something out there that we're all in a learning curve. We all got something to learn. And that's, at this point, the most important part of my life is right now. Why? Because in the 2 months, I'll be 90 years old, and I should be ready. A lot of people, talking about my demise. Well, I don't think it's going to happen very soon. I don't know. I'm not God. But the thing is, I want to see what's going to happen. I want to get better from this injury, and then I want to take myself out there and push myself to the limit again to find out, so I could tell people this is what you could do at this point in your life. Because a lot of people, are living longer today because of medical heroics, but they have no quality of life. They're losing their cognitive ability. They can't walk. They'll be walking with a walker, and God bless them. We need to be an example for people. We need to be an encouragement for people. We just can't, and there's a lot of confusing information. There's an overload of information on the internet here. People don't know what to believe anymore. So you're doing a good job. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, I don't know your buddies yet. I haven't met them, but
yeah.
I mean, you're on the right path. You know what I mean?
Thank
exactly.
You,
look all the, a lot of guys that in the NFL, that had brain. I've had 4 brain concussions. I still got my marbles. I had one just last year. I got hit in the head, the line drive at a baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
A line drive. You know, they thought I was bleeding internally, and I wasn't going to go to the hospital. I went. No, I wasn't bleeding. I had a brain concussion. But you know, I'm saying, am I going to lose my marbles? No, so far I'm not. I'm not. I haven't lost my marbles. So, and look at all the guys in the NFL. They should be getting. They should put those guys in a hyperbaric chamber. Some of
Mm-hmm.
those guys should be put. They should be. Somebody should convince them to go on a vegan diet. It's going to help them. Can you prevent, you know, dementia and all those things? Yes, you can. But you know, you just can't do it by eating more protein. It's not going to work that way.
Mm-hmm. That leads me to another topic that I really wanted to like get your opinion on, because you and I had a conversation previously about, you know, people in disease, you know, having cancer, having those type of issues. And you actually said, I can't remember who you were speaking of, but you said someone close to you that you already knew that, you know, that they were going to deal with something like this. And what most people don't know is that those cancerous cells, those diseases, that they're inside of us and they're just laying dormant. People don't understand how cells lie dormant, you know? And then through what we're doing in our daily lives, through the foods that we're taking in, through the toxins that we're exposed to, you can then activate those. So let's talk about sickness and disease and attacking that with the diet, because you have a ton of experience with this.
Well, most of the people I see sick, I've worked with loads of cancer patients, and listen, somebody that has cancer, yeah, we have to realize that everybody's walking around with some cancer cells in their body that are being kept at bay with the white blood cells and special killer cells. But when you go to this type of anybody that has any kind of disease, their best chance of recovery is to go to a plant-based diet. I don't care what it is. And then they got to realize that if they have sickness, they go to a plant-based diet, there's going to be a detox. You want to accelerate that detox. There's things you could do to accelerate that detox, like fasting. Like the latest research is showing now from traditional scientists that if somebody has cancer and is going for chemo, if they fast 3 days before and 3 days after, they're going to get better results from the chemo and they're going to come out of it with less side effects. Now,
Why is that, Freddie?
Because they're fasting. When you go on a fast, you're strengthening your body's immune system. Listen, all chronic disease, I got to be careful what I say.
I know.
All chronic disease is remedial. Any chronic disease that you have, arthritis, diabetes, coronary artery disease, clogged arteries, if you eat a vegan diet and if you fast, your arteries are going to empty out. Now, but you got to be consistent. A lot of people eat a good diet for 5 days a week.
And then they get or they'll get the result that they want. And then once they get the result and the doctor says, awesome job, they revert right back, right?
That's a mistake. No, you can't, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? You can't keep one foot in both worlds. The vegan diet, based on my experience, and a raw diet is the most remedial diet based on the anatomy of the human body. Now, I do have people come to me. They say, Freddie, I want to be honest. I can't give up animal protein, so I tell them eat 4 ounces every other day. I keep it to a minimum. And then, of course, in general, for the average person that becomes a vegan, maybe a starch-based diet is good until they decide to go more towards a raw diet. If you're eating 80% starch and 20% raw, and you're a vegan, you're going to get dramatic results because there's a big gap between being on that type of a diet and eating a diet with plenty of animal protein. But if you can move with more raw foods, move towards more of a raw food diet, you have a better chance of not ever getting sick, staying away from those diseases. You won't have to cure them. So if you're eating 40% raw food now, if you can up yourself to 60% raw food, and then you're going to need the calories, though, to maintain. I see you're a big guy. You're a big fella, so you have to maintain the calories. On a raw diet, it's hard to get a lot of calories. That's what keeps you healthy. You're on a calorically restricted diet. In the beginning, I was part of a research on the caloric restriction at St. Louis University, a medical school. Then I stopped. I was in disagreement with some of the stuff that they wanted me to do. I wasn't going to do it. I'm not going to be a guinea pig. I already knew. I was already doing all this. But caloric restriction, a raw food diet, is the perfect diet for caloric restriction. Very hard to get too many calories.
Yeah, and you're offsetting all of the other things that you would get when you remove calories and your body's like, hey, listen, we actually don't want that because it's so used to it just initially, because you're getting that influx of essential vitamins and minerals. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, part of the reason that your body's fighting this is because you already were in a lack of essential vitamins and minerals. Now we're putting you in a caloric deficit. But when you like, same thing like as you, like when I started going, I didn't go cold turkey, but when I started going plant-based, I just like literally doubled the amount of greens. So if I was supposed to get 6 servings of greens in a day or 3, I just went to 6 or literally 9, like handfuls of greens in smoothies and stuff. And I didn't have any cravings. I didn't have any of that. My body just was like, oh, so we're changing the foods, but we're getting this influx of minerals.
You were taking the antidote. That was the antidote to get you into the program. People don't realize, even if they don't change, I tell people, listen, go to a plant-based diet. Well, I can't do this. I can't stop eating. I can't stop shrimp. I can't stop drinking. Oh, go to a plant-based diet. Just eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. Eat a lot of greens. They say, gee, I feel so much better. Or start making a smoothie a day and drink 1 juice a day. They feel better. Mm-hmm. But and we got to be patient with people. You get to this point. Now, you got to a point, you're so excited about what happened to you. Look what it helped you with. It could have been a factor in saving your life. But
100%.
But look where you was when you were 21 years old. If somebody came to you when you were 20 years old or 21 years old and you were playing the NBA and told you that, would you have accepted it with open arms? I don't know. Maybe you would have. I don't know. But a lot of people, I spoke to guys from the Mets. They didn't want it. This was years ago. I spoke to some guys playing the NBA.
They're like, you're crazy. Yeah, I would have, and there weren't those examples, like I said, for me, it was big because I heard you speak about it in 2014. So then I knew, hey, listen, this guy has, was super strong. This guy worked with, the top people. He's educated. I knew that it was possible. Now seeing David Carter gave me a visual example, a black guy, 280, 290 pounds, 300 pounds, like had this problem, did these exact things. And it just gave me the map to do it. So you're right. That is why I get so excited about it, because I'm like, listen, guys, like I'm a form of a blueprint. Like this is like, you don't have to do exactly what I did, but I did it and I'm way bigger than you. I mean, there's guys way bigger than me, you know what I mean? But for the average person, 6'8", 240, 250 is pretty big. So yeah, you're right. I do get excited about it, but it definitely saved my life, man. I mean, when you literally go from taking Coumadin every single day, multiple times a day, having to go to the doctor every single day to get your INR levels checked, to calling a doctor and saying, I'm no longer coming in.
He thought you were crazy, probably.
There's the only, you know what I mean? I mean, I went completely off medication. I never went to the doctor again. And I just went my own way with my own principles. And 16 months later, because they told me, hey, you're not going to be able to work out for 16 months. That was my self-made marker. I got blood labs and they told me, we have no explanation for what's happened to you. You're one of the healthiest people that we've ever seen. And if we didn't know, if we didn't know that you had 2 blood clots that turned to pulmonary embolism 16 months ago, there's no sign that there were ever any issues. And then I said, so that means I can lift? And they said, yeah. And then I went that next week and set all PRs, lifetime PRs.
Well, you should get that out there as much as you possibly can. Listen, you're in a perfect position to get the message out there to some of these cool black kids are out there that need this message. And you're the perfect, you and David and these other guys are in the perfect position because of your background as professional athletes. And, you should do this because they need help. There's no two ways about it.
No, it's a big problem, Fred. And like, that's something that we, that David and I speak about, and a lot of other, black guys that are vegans, African-Americans that are vegans. It's like, we listen, I didn't even know what hummus was. I didn't know what chickpeas were until I was like 32 years old. I'm serious. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, if these young people knew, you know what I mean? And like, my family's from Jamaica, and I'm going to ask, I have actually a question on hereditary background and how that factors into some stuff. I'd love your opinion because I have an idea about it. I have a hypothesis of my own, but yes, we need to go out and we need to go into these communities that are concrete jungles and they don't have exposure. And you got to know that these food companies, they're specifically targeting like communities that don't have the means, and they're trying to sell them the dollar burgers and the, you know, the chicken nuggets because it's more affordable than, you know what I'm saying, them, and they don't have the resources, you know. So I have taken that on. I definitely agree.
They're being exploited.
Yeah, they are.
Listen. My son-in-law, you're from Jamaica. You said you're from Jamaica?
Yeah, my family's originally from Jamaica. And I wanted to get your opinion on how you think that cultural and hereditary factors play in to, you know, people having these different results and needing to go these different routes. Because in Jamaica, it's a very high fat diet, right?
I know.
You're having a lot of a lot of meats, a lot of, you know, oily foods, and also, you know, a lot of what we call pear, or the large Hass avocados. And because of that, high fat diets work very well for me. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Well, my son-in-law is he's from Jamaica. He's a black guy, and he would, you know, he ate a high. He's a Marine. He's been to Afghanistan and Iraq, but he was always sick. He always had colds. Big, strong-looking guy. And then my daughter got cancer, and he changed to a vegan diet. He can't bleed. Never had a cold again. Everything changed. Everything. Nobody can convince him that, you know, being eating a lot of animal protein is any different. Being a vegan is much better because his blood profile changed. Everything changed. He's away right now for terrorist training in San Diego because he's a Marine. He's a great guy, but he's become very, very, very aware. Now, he's a combat Marine. So when he's away, he don't change his diet. Now look, these guys are kidding him. Oh, come on, Dwayne, I thought you was a real man and all this type of stuff. But that happens. You got to be able to stand up to the pressure that's out there. And we got to remember this is all about the money. And you have an obligation now that you have this experience. I'm a godly man. I believe 100% that guys like you have an obligation to share it to people who haven't had this experience that are poor people that need your help, and you're in a perfect position to help them. I believe you got to do it, man. Yeah. You have to do it.
Well, and maybe we can do some of it together, man.
Huh?
So maybe we can do some of it together, you know, because it's such a crazy contrast of seeing, like, when I was speaking with Rory, I was like, man, for somebody to see like me, like I'm looking up to you, you know what I mean? And you're giving one side of it as a 90-year-old, you know, guy from the Northeast. And then here's this 6'8" black guy, and we're both saying the same things. And it's just whoever you can identify. I don't care who you identify with. All I'm saying is you've got to hear that this is a real thing.
There's a lot of, listen, we've been indoctrinated into a system that in some respects, it's not true. Now, if you need surgery, of course you got to go to a medical doctor. You're not gonna eat an apple or have a bowl of rice and beans. There's times when you have to go to science, but when it comes to chronic disease, when it comes to lifestyle, they still don't have it straight. I got a book right here I told you about. Head of the pathology department said, the guy said you could never be a vegan or a vegetarian.
Yeah.
He never said it. Very intelligent guy when it came to science, but he had it wrong.
Hey, Freddie, can we hold on for just a second? Because somebody's at the front door.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Right, don't worry about it.
I'm going to just grab it.
Go ahead. Yeah, he wants to reach these young kids. You got to do it.
That's what their platform is.
Yeah.
The culture platform is for athletes to reach children. Good. Yeah.
I was rolling on my chair here. I thought somebody was there, but nobody.
Sorry
about that, man.
Oh, listen. Yeah, you know, you got your work cut out for you, and you got a great team there. From what I don't know the other guys that well, and I only know you now. But you know, and David, you know, he's on the same path that you are, right? He wants to help people, right?
Yeah, exactly, man. Man, well, it's been awesome to get to chat with you. I don't want to keep you too much longer. I had you about an hour.
You have any other questions? You have any questions?
I would say, yeah, you know, just a couple quick ones. Fasting, you know what I'm saying? If people were to approach fasting how would you suggest that they start to experiment with it in a safe manner? Like, you speak about, having supervision and things like that, but what would you suggest to
Well,
people?
I mean, supervision for one, anything more than 7 days, if you should have supervision. Up to 7 days, if a person has a decent understanding, read a couple of books, and they just shut down and rest. Now, there are people who tell you to exercise a lot on a water fast. You will burn more calories, but you could get yourself into trouble. You could get away, or you could get into trouble. My experience, the best way to accomplish the most is to rest as much as you possibly can. Make sure you're drinking clean water. Try to stay emotionally, spiritually grounded, and then you'll get the best. You can heal yourself from different types of diseases. If you're inexperienced, a lot of people are into intermittent fasting now. That means extending your overnight fast, beyond 15 hours. But you got to have a eating parameter, stay within the eating parameter, because if you're doing intermittent fasting, say for a year or two, and you're not having your first meal at 12 o'clock, you start eating at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to feel good, and you're not going to realize why. Your body adapts to what you do. So intermittent fasting is good. Fasting 1 day a week, 24 hours to 36 hours, like from Sunday night to Monday night or to Tuesday morning. Then people are really into it and they're starting to get familiar with their body. They could do 3-day fast. And once you really get good at it, and you know what you're doing, you understand, you have enough reserve. You can, if you're thin already, you look at your underneath your arms, your serratus magnus. It doesn't take much to realize you have enough reserve. But I wouldn't fast more than 7 days unless you're very confident or you have somebody to talk to. But fasting, if you do fast 1 day a week when you're recovering, you're going to recover a lot faster.
Yeah. And I think that's a really great way to approach it. Like, okay, let's start with, some intermittent fasting, extending, and that's what a lot of people don't get. Well, you're just extending your overnight fast, what you're already doing. And if you're getting adequate sleep, if you're getting adequate sleep, you should already be sleeping for hopefully, 8 to 10 hours. So it's just adding another, 16 hours. So, 6 or 7 hours onto that, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. You spoke a little bit too about tissue quality and food correlation. Can you just touch a little bit on that so people can just understand a little bit about, hey, the foods that you take in and, what that's doing to your body in the sense of, quality of your body, tissue and whatnot, connective tissue
it's not
strength.
only a logical way to look at it. You eat junk, you're not going to have quality tissue. You know what I mean? That means you're always going to be, your body's always having to be play catch up. You're always detoxing more than you should. You're expending a lot of energy. When you're expending a lot of energy that way, you don't have a lot of vital force that'll keep you vital, alive, and young. So if if you'll watch yourself, you see there's a direct correlation. When you get closer to eating more raw foods, or you're leaving out, you don't deviate at all, you leave out the processed food, you'll see that you'll have a healthier looking skin. Everything is going to look good. You look at your face, you'll have less wrinkles as time goes on. So there is a direct connection to your diet and your tissue quality. I've seen that over the years. Mm-hmm. I remember in the beginning, I mean, it was amazing what happened. Then I went through a period where I realized that I even had to, tighten up even more. And what I did, it had a lot to do with, fasting and everything like that. I actually saw a change. My skin actually got younger looking, even though I was on a raw diet. If you're not into really doing a lot of exercise and you get really into caloric restriction, you're really slowing down the aging process.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of exercise. You do not need it. The healthier you get, you could do it, but you don't have to train, run 20-mile runs. You don't have to do all that. You could do it without even training that much.
And that's what I think a lot of people don't like. One of the first things that people will say is like, oh man, your skin looks really good. And and it's like, yeah, that's because the food that that's a great, like you said, example right there, the food that you're taking in is working for you in that aspect and doing so many of these things, from the inside out. Obviously it's starting from the if your skin's looking good, you're not putting a bunch of, like women, putting makeup on your face. Hey, that's a sign of what's happening on the inside, shining through. I guess the last question I have two more, then I'll let you go, man. The first one is superfoods. Can you, suggest some superfoods that you prefer, or just that you've, you know what I'm saying, used more in your diet if people were to explore it. Because first thing, I think that people don't understand even what superfoods are, and they don't understand that the quality of the superfood is in the manufacturing process. So that's probably another conversation. You could just be having a dead superfood that's just got some nice cool coloring to it. But if there were some superfoods that were processed the right way, manufactured the right way, which ones would you suggest? You know what I'm saying? Outside of, like, my favorites are like moringa and like spirulina. And in Florida, like, moringa grows on trees. So I would literally just like just put it in Ziploc bags and just throw it in my smoothies, eat it by the handful. But can you talk about some that you suggest?
Well, I don't know how much you've played around with cordyceps and reishi mushrooms and turkey tail. Are you familiar with the medicinal mushrooms? I mean, they're
Yes.
tremendous for energy, especially cordyceps. It's tremendous for energy. The medicinal mushrooms, cordyceps, turkey tail, reishi, shiitake, maitake mushrooms.
Yeah.
Now, they are medicinal mushrooms, but I believe in green, super green formulas that have everything in it. There are super green formulas that you can get. They have all that in it. They have all the greens.
Is there a company or one that you've seen that you prefer?
Oh, we have a good one. There's other good ones out there too, but we have a good one. Rory, could you send them? Rory will send you some to try.
Okay.
It's really good. You'll feel it right away. And then if you want to add some cordyceps and turkey tail and reishi to it, you could do that.
That's awesome.
Green foods, the green food powders, just look at the formula. Make sure there's no fillers in it. A lot of people put fillers in it, things that don't really amount to anything. A good green formula, if you throw it in water, it should taste pretty good. But if you put it in a juice or a smoothie, you'll feel it.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
A good one, you'll feel it instantly.
I love it. And then I guess the last thing is probably that one thing, again, just to touch on, protein amounts to have like on a plant-based diet. Now, most times I would kind of suggest like the gram per like kilo, which a lot of times ends up working out to like your lean body mass. So if somebody's, you know what I'm saying, around, I don't know, like for me, my lean body mass at about 240, 235 might be like, 205, 210. I would actually use like 0.8 grams of that number of your lean body mass. And that a lot of times ended up being more than enough for me. And that was still like 143 grams or so. But what would you suggest? You know what I'm saying?
Well,
if I'm trying to just find somewhere to start experimenting with without getting super detailed, what would you suggest?
Well, that's all based on what you're trying to accomplish right now. So if you want to stay at your body weight, and if everything you're doing is clean, that amount of protein and the right amount of calories will keep you at that body weight. But from a health standpoint, we need a lot less protein in that. Exactly. I don't get nowhere near that much, but that's why I'm a thin guy. I'm only 145 pounds. So that's all relative to a person, what their goal, what their objectives are. But the key is you got to eat clean. That's the key. And then if you eat a clean vegan diet and you're a professional athlete, whatever amount of protein from a clean source to keep you at the body weight that you want, that's the right number for you. But everybody's different. When they give you a certain amount of protein for every person, if I ate that much protein for me, it'd be too much.
Yeah, it would be too much.
Yeah.
And so like in my programs, for example, I'll actually suggest to people, hey, listen, so here's like a template. If you want to like change your body composition drastically over 6-8 weeks, then here's a way of formulating like your calories, right? And at that time, inside of a very small area, you might ingest more of a higher protein diet because of what your training style and your goals are. But it's not something that you're going to maintain. It's not maintainable. You know what I mean? It's better for you to do like you're talking about. Hey, know what my calories need to be. Make sure that I'm sleeping well. Make sure that I'm, I have an exercise plan that works for me,
Right. Well, it's your body's always striving to keep you alive and keep you more efficient and to heal you. The only problem is, we kind of get in the way a lot. Like years ago when I was young, all the information, most of it was wrong. Most of it was wrong. It really was. And originally they said it didn't make any difference where you got your calories or where you got your nutrients. So you could eat all the processed food You wanted to. They didn't separate the processed food. So long you got your vitamin C, your vitamin D, the B complex vitamin, got enough protein, you could have got it from junk food. Now that don't work. You'll be able to function, but your body's going to deteriorate. You're putting a burden on your organs. You're gonna slow down your aging. You're going to accelerate your aging process. See, you don't realize it till you get older. When you're young, there's kind of like an arrogance in youth. You say, well, nothing's ever going to stop me. But yes, you'll find out comes a time. If something goes wrong, you have an accident, you get sick. A lot of people don't change unless they have an accident, get sick. I've had a couple of very bad accidents. You know what I mean? So I realized, and of course, everybody was saying, oh, now that you have an accident, in order to heal, you got to eat animal protein. Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. No way. I didn't listen. I'd be dead. I wouldn't be here.
I like it. Well, man, Freddie, I really appreciate you, sitting down and chat. I'm sure we'll chat a lot more. I'm actually I've said for a while that I wanted to because I kind of would go more probably 80-20, even up as far as 90-10, raw foods. So now I really want to experience, especially, because I think I told you what my injury is, but, I have a patella rupture and I have my MRI tomorrow. And more than likely I've torn my ACL and probably my MCL too, but we'll see. So I'm definitely trying to do everything I can to run a really good experiment, to be able to have some data for later. So I might, I'm sure we'll catch up another time too.
You're gonna heal. I remember there was I injured my knee, and the doctor, orthopedic surgeon says, listen, you're not going to run another marathon unless you get that. I couldn't straighten out my leg. I jumped on my bike. A week later, started riding my bike, fasted, stayed on my diet. 6 weeks later, I ran New York City Marathon. So they don't have, listen, the thing is, we got to show humility too. We can't, even though you know something sometimes depends upon who you speak to. You got to, you don't want to make anybody feel bad or inadequate in any way, or try to make people think we're superior anyway, because we're not. We're just a little ahead on the learning curve. And basically, when you have information, people will appreciate you more, and you'll get a better recognition. You'll probably end up doing better business-wise if you do the right thing. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Thank you very much, man.
All right, buddy.
I appreciate it. You have a great day, man. I'm sure I'll talk to you here soon. Hey, Roy, it was good to see you too, man.
Sure, Marcus, I want Fred to give you some feedback on taking the CBD, which should arrive today.
Okay, cool.
Stuff. When would you recommend?
Okay. Yeah. Well,